Hello, welcome to the second module of the course Public Finance, and we'll be looking into the principles and theories of public finance, the principles and theories of public finance, and we will look into the principle of taxation, expenditure, and budgeting. We also look at the classical Keynesian and modern theories of public finance, and we look at equity, efficiency, and stability principle. When we talk about public finance as both a field and study, um, and a practice rather. It is actually guided by principles, theoretical frameworks that shapes how government collect revenue, allocate expenditure, and maintain economic stability. And the starting point lies in the principles of taxation, expenditure, and budgeting. And this serves as the cornerstone of public finance. These principles ensure that revenue is raised fairly and efficiently, that public spendings align with societal needs, and that budget provides a transparent and accountable framework for resource management. And they embody the value of justice, economy, and responsibility in the financial operation of the government. And looking at these principles, the guiding principle of finance, for the first that we said we will look into is the principle of taxation. And when we talk about the principle of taxation, these are the canons of taxation famously articulated by Adam Smith. And the principles under this are the principle of equity. The major thing, those that are very essential to note is equity. And as per this, we look at taxes should be distributed fairly based on the ability to pay. This is the basis for progressive taxation, and it's not just that there will be just a particular amount that will be collected from someone. Someone collecting maybe a salary or wage of around 20,000, paying the same thing as someone who has a salary of about 200,000 to collect. So there is difference. It will be based on the amount. So it places fairness on the payment of taxes. Also, as per the certainty, taxpayers should know clearly what, when, and how much they need to pay. That's about the certainty. Taxpayers should um, know clearly what, when, and how much they need to pay. And when it comes to the convenience, the tax system should be easy and convenient for taxpayers. The tax system should be easy and convenient for taxpayers. And lastly, under the economy, it shows that the cost of collecting taxes should be low relative to the revenue generated. So it's not just that we will implement a tax collection whereby maybe ₦1 million is being collected, and the cost used in collecting that will be so outrageous that maybe a minimal money will be left, or even the cost will be higher than the revenue that is being generated. So these principles are really guiding principles as it pertains to taxation. And we have the guiding principle uh, of public expenditure. And when we talk about this, it is public funds should be spent to minimize social benefit. Public funds should be spent to minimize social benefit. And under this, we have efficiency. For this talks about spending should maximize societal welfare relative to the resources used. So it's mainly about societal welfare in relation to the resources that is being used. Also, it has under this is the equity, and this talks about spending should promote fairness and reduce inequality. Spending should promote fairness and reduce inequality. And lastly, under this is the economy. And for this, public funds should be spent prudently, avoiding waste. So, in terms of spending of this uh, funds that have been generated, the revenues that have been generated. The principle that is very important is having to spend it prudently in order to avoid waste of resources that have been generated or that have been derived from the masses. And another is the principle of budgeting. For this, the budget is a blueprint for government finances. So having a budget is very, very important. We look at the budgeting aspect of public finance in the coming um, modules. So, but as a principle, we have a principle to note under budgeting, and the first is the annuality. And for this, we talk about budget are prepared for a specific financial year to ensure regular review and accountability. Budgets are prepared for a specific financial year. It have to be specific, and it have to be a regular to ensure to ensure review regularly and to bring about accountability. And also we have the universality as very, very important concept or principle under principle of budget. And for this, all government receipts and expenditure must be included without netting off the to ensure transparency. So in terms of budgeting, there should be the receipt and payments which is shown to ensure transparency in the budgeting process. Differentiating between the classical and Keynesian theory, um, we have for the classical, it's between the 18th to 19th century, and as a rule, it supports minimal intervention of the government in private economic activities, and it rather has a role in defense law and basic infrastructure. That is, it shows minimum support or intervention in terms in the private economic activity. And as per the philosophy, the budget philosophy, a central tenet of classical public finance was the belief in balanced budget. And when we talk about balanced budgets, they are essential to avoid burdening future generation and crowding out private investment. And lastly, is about the fiscal policy. It's not used for macroeconomic management under classical theory. But under the Keynesian theory, you could see that it's a 20th century or post-Great Depression theory, and it supports active and broad intervention of governments to manage aggregate demand and stabilize the economy. And as per the philosophy in budget, Keynesian theory believes in deficit spending. And when we talk about deficit spending, it is necessary during recession to stimulate demands and create jobs. And also about the fiscal policy, it's actually counter-cyclical, and this means increases spending, lower taxes during recession, or decreases spending and raise taxes during booms. We also have the modern theories of public finance, such as the public choice theory. We have the welfare economics. We have the globalization and fiscal competition. We have the green public finance. For the public choice theory, it applies economic principles to political behavior, suggesting politicians and bureaucrats may act in their self-interest rather than the public itself. For the welfare economic, it focuses on using fiscal policy to correct market failure and maximize social welfare. For the globalization and fiscal competition, it deals with increased capital mobility leads to a raise of the bottom, where countries lower corporate tax rates to attract investment. And lastly, the green public finance theory, it integrates environmental sustainability into fiscal policy, and tools include carbon taxes and subsidies for renewable energies. What are the core normative principles? We have the equity, we have the efficiency, and we have the stability. For equity, it is fairness, just like I've said before. And under that, we have the horizontal equity, which talks about people with the same ability to pay should have the same tax burden. And vertical equity, which is people with a greater ability to pay should contribute more. Under the efficiency, the optimal use of scarce resources. It is the optimal use of scarce resources to achieve the greatest possible benefit. And this means minimizing economic distortion from taxes and ensuring government spendings generate maximum benefit. And lastly, the stability and the government's role it's the government's role in maintaining steady economic growth, controlling inflation, and reducing unemployment, and this is achieved through counter-cyclical fiscal policy and sound public debt management. In conclusion, I've been able to establish that the principles and theories of public finance provides the essential ethical and practical framework guiding all government fiscal activities. We've looked at the principle of taxation, expenditure, and budgeting, and we've also looked at the classical theory and Keynesian demand management theories. We've looked at some other modern theories also. Ultimately, these principles and theories converge to on the core normative objective of equity, efficiency, and stability, providing policymakers with the critical to evaluate and design fiscal system that promotes both economic prosperity and social justice. Thank you.